business how you want. Do your thing how you want. You don't have to niche your podcast. You can niche your podcast if you want. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. And I think I have this. My word for the new year is kick the door down. I don't want to deal with anyone else's rules of what they think I should or shouldn't do. I don't care anymore. I know that's a little bit harsh and will hurt some people's feelings, but I don't. Like, I've cared for so long, and all of a sudden it smacked me in the face.
Do nothing when you care what other people say. Because then at the end of the day, you're still by yourself because they got whatever they wanted out of you. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, dang, okay. Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Jessica Carice. And this space is a place where you talk about seemingly random topics, but in all actuality, they're connected together. And this episode is sponsored by J. Carice & Company, management consulting firm that not only transforms your business through technology, but also through hearts and minds as well. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Joe Graham. He has over 20 years of sales experience, and he also is a podcast host of The Joe Graham Show. His relationship first style is what has helped him win multiple President's Circle Awards for a Fortune 100 company. He loves helping people wake up to a life they love living. Joe, welcome.
Thank you for having me. That's good. You should be my hype person. That will make my life easier.
You know, I have this thing. There's like multiple little things that are slowly starting to develop. So if hype woman is one of them, I'm more than happy to be your hype woman.
Yeah, it'd be great. Like I want to have it where I can get this whole collage of any podcast or stuff I'm on, just talking about how I am. So when I'm having a bad day, because we all have it, I can just be like, I'm just going to go listen to people saying how good I am at them.
You know, that's a fantastic idea, actually. That's a really, really fantastic idea. You have like your own personal hype video compilation.
Yes, that would be great. I would love that.
Oh, Joe, thank you for being here. So, Joe, multiple President's Circle Awards. So you must know a thing or two about sales. So tell us, what's your current day like? What's like a typical week? What is the Joe Graham life like today?
It's a mix of both. So I'm a hybrid. Like a lot of times you'll probably have people on here that are 100% entrepreneurs. They're only doing their business. I actually do both. I work for now a Fortune 50 company. They moved me from Texas to Arizona. I have a system in place with selling, and I've been doing it for years. I work about 6 hours a day. I'm supposed to work more, but because I make enough sales and all, they leave me alone. I work from home. Then I podcast. I have over 209 episodes have dropped so far. Wow. I did that for about 3 years. I go for walks. I get to be by the mountains. I've started getting closer to the life I love living. Is it perfect? Is it exact where I want it to be? Not yet, but it's getting closer. And it's one of those things that each day I just choose to move forward and have fun and connect with cool people like you and make the world a better place.
So did you think your life would be like this, let's say maybe 10 years ago?
10 years ago, yes. 20 years ago, no. So 10 years ago, I was already in sales. So I was already starting to do sales, understanding that I could actually make more money by what value I brought than the time I gave, which is what people don't understand with sales. It's kind of like entrepreneur life. So at that point, I had at least agreement the idea. Was I stepping into it? No. I had just barely made my first 100,000 with the job that I had to leave a little bit after because I found out the wells that I was selling were not producing, and my rule of sales is I have to believe in what I'm doing. So I had to walk away from a job there and went through a really dark time for a little bit before I won the President's Circle Awards and all. So 10 years ago, no. 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, yes, sorry. 20 years ago, no. I was in a factory, going to college, thinking I was going to work in management, living in the Midwest where they tell you have to go and get a job, do the thing. And then they just let me go. They were like, came and go, we love you, you're great, but we're just downsizing. Nothing to do with you. It's just, you don't have to pay the degree back. So that part was good. But you got to go because we don't have anything. And the only thing I could find was sales with the young family. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a stepping stone until I can get back into management because where I lived, you didn't think sales was good. And then all of a sudden I went and did my second deal. My first deal was funny, but my second deal or third deal I walked in, I sold an $11,000 roof and made $1,000 in like 25 minutes. At that time, that was crazy significant. I was like, holy crap. I just spent an hour and I made $1,000. Fast forward now, I want to make more than $1,000 an hour because I've gotten way better at sales. But at the time, to give you context, so this is 20 years ago. This is in the Midwest. This is in a rural, like Kalamazoo, West Side state.
Yeah.
So it was huge because $1,000 at that point was more than I was making for 2 weeks. Like it would take me, I think we were budgeted off of like, I think I was making $29,000 a year in the factory while I was going to school. So when I did that like it blew my mind. Now I was thinking, holy cow, I can do this. Now I would love to tell you it was rainbows and unicorns from there, but it wasn't. There's a lot of crazy things that happens, ups and downs in sales, learning, growing and all. But yeah, 20 years ago, me would have loved, and it would be blown away where I'm at now. Now I'm grateful for that because looking back at 20 years ago where a 19-year-old me would even be more blown away. But I also know my potential. So it's kind of like, I think you had to get in that spot of, I'm super grateful for where I'm at because where I'm at right now is super successful in a lot of people's eyes. But now I'm like, oh crap, bro, you have so much more you can do. So many more people you can impact, so much more value. But I had to go through that part to get to here.
Yeah. Oh, you know something? This is something I haven't really dug into like that, where you're at a spot in your life and you know you have so much potential, but there's no outlet to like tap into or pull out, develop, explore what that potential even is. So for me, I was very, very frustrated and I just jumped jobs like, no, I could do more, blah, 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 blah. Lots of people didn't agree with my decisions with jumping jobs because it was still at the time where like, no, you stay at a job for 10 years. For what? You know, to your point, like they stay firing people after they've been there a long time. So on your journey, you knew you had so much potential. So how did you go about trying to develop it?
In the beginning, because again, 20 years ago, and I was at that company for 8 years before they let me go. So yeah, that whole stay there forever. People don't get a vote. So I want to throw this out here first. No one gets a vote in your life but you and maybe your significant other. But it's your life to live. You get to choose it. No one else gets a vote. Do what you want to do that makes you happy. I'm a very curious person. So when I got into sales, I knew I didn't know anything. So the first job, there was no one that was doing well in it. It was just a sales job I fell into. So I started listening to podcasts and YouTube videos because 20 years ago, it was more on YouTube. That was kind of what it was. Podcasting wasn't what it is today. So I listened to like, the Grant Cardones of the world, the Jordan Belforts, all that type of stuff, and just listening to the stuff that I could do. I started getting books and reading books and then testing and trying. And then once I got into the roles big enough, I would find who is the best person at this. And I would go and ask them questions. I would pester them really. I would bug the hell out of them. Sorry if I can't swear. I apologize. I would bug them all the time. I'd be like, why did you do this? What did you do this? And like, just sit there and shut up and listen. I had to humble myself, sit there and shut up and listen. No one likes to hear that. But when you're learning and you're asking for someone's time and energy, especially in the sales world or a business world where everything you say matters, because it's like a chess game. So I sat there and listened. And then I get a little bit better. Then I get a little bit better. Then I get a little bit better. But it wasn't just like I did that for the first job and then I was good. When I would go to a new job, I'd have to start over again because like, okay, why is this person successful and this person's not successful? Because this person talks really, really, really good, but they're selling nothing. And this person's real quiet. Dude is making big, or the gal is making big. So I would literally go, like in that oil and gas I mentioned, there was a guy there named Scott. And he was selling like $3.2 million a year. And I was like, wow. What? So he got 10% of that. That's $320,000. Well, I went and talked to him. He goes, well, here, I'll make a deal with you. He goes, I don't like the prospect. I just want to close people. He was that old school. He liked to close. He's like, you close for me. I'll teach you. You get 3%. I get 7%. I'm like, okay, bet. So that 320, I got 3% of. He got 7 of the 3.2 million. It was a win-win. And I got to hear how he talked to people. I got to hear how he connected with people. So there was a lot of varieties of it. And then podcasting came out. Other things came out. I did other different stuff. And I just got better. But I put it in the caveat of this, Jessica. I was always like, I will only sell people how I want to be sold. I don't want to come across as sleazy. I don't want to come across as taking advantage. I want this to be a win-win. Look, I was building my brand and didn't even know I was building my brand. And I got to the point where I would be telling people, hey, Jessica, I don't think this is a good deal for you, but I know Tim down the road can help you. And I started just building that brand. I would get in trouble sometimes for this, but I tell, wait, manager, whoever was yelling at me for that one, because then you would refer me 3 or 4 other people that really needed my service because I built trust with you. So I didn't, and there's a term called stepping on dollars to pick up pennies. I refuse to step on dollars to pick up pennies. I'd rather invest and wait a little bit so I could get the dollar instead of the penny.
Yeah. It's really funny because most of my life I was just straight up operations, project management, back, behind the scenes type of person. And so with stepping out and being heads down with growing my business, I needed to learn sales. And so of course, like, when you first start on your journey learning sales, you have all like, use this sales tactic, this script, this blah, 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 blah. And I realized I'm like, okay, none of this is going to resonate with the type of clients I'm trying to get. So basically come full circle actually, because my sales tactic is just being myself, right? Like, let me hear about what your problems are. Let me see if I can help. And if not, I know someone else who can, right? So
that's key.
Yeah. Go on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was like, no, that's key. They need to rewind this part and do what she said.
Yeah. And it's like now I feel so much more comfortable. I feel true to myself. I don't feel, that sometimes you get like a little bit of a dissonance inside if you're doing something that, it doesn't feel right. Have you ever been in a situation where they were like, because it sounded like in this particular instance, like your manager was okay for you to be like, no, go to somewhere else, or your manager was okay for you to eventually, like, people are going to refer type of thing, right? But have you ever been in a place where they were super, super strict and it's like, no, you have to push, you have to do this, where it's like, it kind of gives you that internal resistance, like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and I left. Because I can't, the thing with me is this, and I think this is with most people, because most of the time, media gets it wrong. Salespeople, for the most part, there are bad apples and everything, but for the most part are just trying to take care of their family and help other people, because sales is helping. You have to have your values. I also knew at that point I was a good enough salesperson that I could go get a different job. Because once you do sales long enough, you know how to sell, it's like, okay, cool. If this doesn't work for me, I'm not stuck here. I'll go find a new job. I'll go find a new way to do it. And a few times I just did it anyway. And they were like, what are you doing? And yell at me. And then a couple weeks later, I'm like, hey, remember when you yelled at me about this? I am a little bit of a challenger personality too. So that plays in it. I just got a deal for $20,000, right? And I made that number up. Like, I don't remember the exact number. So just all transparency. I just got this deal in for here. Who gave it to me? The guy that I referred away. So I had to prove to them what I was saying was there. But knowing that if not, I was going to pay for it because I did it differently than what they wanted. Because you have to understand, it's not your business. They have the rules, their guidelines. And I'm not saying that you can always refer stuff away. So don't hear what I'm saying. But if it's within your power, it's take care of the customer. Do the right thing. And maybe, hey, I can't tell you who to go with, Jessica, because that would get me in trouble. But this doesn't seem like it's a good fit for you. Even that would get people to want to work with me because, again, like, trust, believe it. This sales guy's skipping a commission to take care of me. He must really care about me. But it's genuine for me. It's not like I'm trying. This is not like the, I'm going to trick you to get you to do something. It's just who I am. And like you said before, one of the cool things is sell how you are. Sell how you like to be sold. I like people to tell me up front. I don't like gimmicks. I don't like games. If you take me into a car dealership and you try to do the thing where you got to talk to the manager, I will refuse to talk to you now. Nope. Bring the manager. You can't talk to me. I won't play the game. No, you don't get my keys. Not playing the games. No, the price drop thing doesn't work for me. I want the price right now. This is what I've seen online. I am that guy. Like, I don't like games. Even now with sales, I'm like, hey, cool. Doing all this, this is what you want. By the way, T-Mobile, who I work for right now, is running this promo. Want you to know ahead of time, before we even get in there, you can get this promo. This is what we got going on. I can maybe be able to get you some more credits. I'm just giving you all the information up front because I treat it like it's my business and I own it. I'm not selling you. I'm working with you. So again, it's just that little mindset shit.
Yeah. So like I have a super selfish question because with learning sales, now I see when people are trying to prospect me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it makes me angry because like, if I'm meeting up with someone, like, okay, if I met you at a networking event, like I'm meeting up with you just to really get to know you. I'm not meeting up with you or speaking to you because I want your services. Mm-hmm. And so it makes me angry when I feel that at the end of the meetup or conversation, they're pitching to me. So how do you go about your day-to-day life? You're meeting people, networking, whatever. And then they start trying to pitch to you. Like you can see them going down like the sales tactics. Like how do you navigate through that?
If it's a business meeting, I just go, hey, Jessica, I just wanted to get to know you. I'm not ready to do business with you. And if this is a business meeting, we can be done because we said we were getting together to get to know each other. Address the elephant in the room. It's not always easy, but then that way there's boundaries because so many times we don't have boundaries and then people have been taught so long, hey, get Jessica on the phone and then get her to do it. Now, if I'm doing a sales call to you and you answer, you've answered the sales call, and at any time you can hang up, that's a different game. But if we go and get dinner, I say, hey, I just want to get to know you and get dinner. I want to get to know you. It's like, I'm going to use this analogy because dating, it makes sense here, right? If I was dating a girl and I'm just going out with her and I'm just trying to run into doing something later that night, that whatever, you can't just run into and go, hey, do you want to go do something? That doesn't work. And I'm not trying to be vulgar. Don't take anything wrong. I'm not telling people what to do. So don't take it that way. But you know what I mean? Like in sales, you have to close the deal. You have to get to know the person. You can't be like, hey, do you want to go home? Doing Netflix and chill? That's not going to work. That's what they're doing. They're trying to Netflix and chill you on the thing by coming in and going, hey, my business can do this. I don't care about your business. If I said I genuinely want to get to know you, I genuinely need to get to know you. Because then you're going to tell me, I like sunsets in wine, or I like the Caribbean over Iceland, or whatever it is you're trying to do. And you can still learn about the person and build your case without pitching them. And then it's a dance, which is way better than just a pushing your product or service on, because here's the little secret most people don't realize. They don't care about your product, don't care about your service, they don't care about anything unless it helps them. You said, I'm being a little bit selfish. Selfishness is not bad in the right context. You should be very selfish about who you allow into your circle. You should be very selfish about who you do business with. You should be very selfish about who you allow to speak into your life. Because at the end of the day, that's your life, your world, who you're protecting. So they have to earn the right. So if someone's going on a business connection, the better thing to do is find out about your business. What are you liking to do? What is going on with it? What are your goals? What do you want to do in 10 to 15 years? What are you looking to do? Because when you talk to people about themselves, they will open up, give you all the information, and then you can pitch them later if it's a good fit. But if you come in and I go, hey, Jessica, I'm a 4-time President's Circle Award winner. Hey, Jessica, I know how to do sales. Hey, Jessica, I can help you close that deal. Hey, Jessica, my business is this. Like, I'm sure, I think you said, I know you said you were married. I've been married 23 years. You've been married to your husband as well. If he would have came and just talked about himself the whole time, didn't show any interest in you and just tried to pitch himself, I don't think you'd been married. Mm-hmm. I think we forget it's relationships beat algorithms. My buddy George Ryan said that, but it's true. It's the relationships you build. Networking events, anytime you talk to someone, make it about them and keep your mouth shut about you until they ask. You're good, because guess what? You talk enough about someone, then they'll get curious, like, well, why did you think that? And then the conversation comes in, and then it's not a pitch. Now it's a conversation, and are you going to be able to build something together?
Okay, that's fantastic. And with your value system, at what point in your life did you start to develop it? Like, what led to you being more value-based versus, I don't know, going along with maybe what other people say you should do, or...
I think it started when I was young. So I grew up kind of weird. So I grew up in West Michigan in the country. But I also grew up in a very big Hispanic community right close to a college town. So I got to see all different cultures and life and stuff. And my parents took me to church when I was young. And my first pastor was from India. This is the 80s. And his wife was a white girl. And at that time, it was taboo or whatever. I don't think it's taboo, but I didn't even have a clue. But like in the country at the time, you know what I mean? Like people would think, but I've always been exposed to culture and I've always been exposed to values and treating people how you want to be treated. And that's where my value system came from. But I've always also been inquisitive of, why do other people think this way? I've always been in love with history. So like from weird ancient empires around the world, and I'm not just talking like I will watch Korean period pieces because I'm that weird inquisitive type of person. It's Turkish shows. I don't care about captions. So I know what my values are, but other people's values are formed by what their environment they grow up in. I want to know what they're thinking of. And then if you treat people with respect, it kind of gets there. And I know that was kind of like a circular answer thinking about it in my head as it came out of my mouth, but that's really where it's at. It's like in my mind, I know what I'm good at. I know what I love to do. And I know what I will take and what I will give. But I know other people have different ideas and values and ideas. And I want to know, well, why do you think that way? Like, that's just where my mind goes with it. It's like having the respect of myself, but also understanding people think differently and figuring out what works for them. So like if I was around someone that was a vegan, even though I'm not vegan, like I like meat, I would try to be respectful of what they're doing. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Hopefully it does.
Yeah.
I know I might need more coffee. That kind of came in my head right, and then it starts out going, is this making sense?
No, it makes sense because I feel like my value system kind of developed not exactly the same way, but there was similar circumstances. So for me, like I grew up in a Christian household, Pentecostal Christian, but at the time, so grew up in the 90s. So at the time, the value system is we're the best, we're the truth, we're the only truthful, religion.
Former Pentecostal too. Yep. Yep. I got you. Yep.
Yeah. And I grew up in Baltimore, and at the time it was very white and black, maybe sprinkles of Hispanic, but very white and black. There were no like major other cultures, right? And so then when I went to college in New York. I went to Stony Brook. Oh my God, it was raining with so many different cultures. And I'm like, wow, there's so many different types of people in the world. Oh my God. So it was a huge, huge wake up call. And then because I was curious about everyone's different cultures, like I had Korean friends, Chinese friends, I had South Asian friends. I had friends like I would be at all the different cultural parties just because I was so curious and wanted to learn. And one of the biggest things that was like such an eye opener for me is that, at the time, like the Christians used to, talk down about Islam, for example. And my roommate, she was a Muslim, and she was the most loving, sweetest, we're still great friends to this day, person I've ever met in my life. And I'm like, I'm shedding some of these subtle belief systems from what I grew up with. Like, that's not right.
Yep. I love that. Only because of this. If you never challenge your beliefs, are they really your beliefs? Or were you just born into it without ever looking to see, is this real for me? And I think so many times, because like I've thought about it over my life. I have friends that are Muslim, Hindu, atheists, agnostics, you name it. And I still see this same thread. They all want to take care of their family. They all want to be loved and respected. And they all want a better world. Now, their view might be different, but their view is shaped by where they grew up. I grew up, like I said, in rural Michigan, in the country, by a college town, but with a really cool Hispanic community. So you'll laugh at me. I love Hispanic food. My favorite music is reggae. I can still play the country boy anytime I want. I've traveled the world. My first girlfriend was Hispanic. I love being enmeshed in culture. I think so many times people get so caught up, and especially because I came from that Pentecostal background where we're the only right church. No, you're not the only right church. There is no only right church. Because guess what? You've only been around for about 150, 200 years, history nerd here again. So what happened to all the people before that? I think, and here, well, I'll just throw out another thing. What happened before Jesus came? All the people, does God just throw them all into hell because he forgot to send Jesus ahead of time? I don't think that's how it works. I think God is way bigger than what we understand. It doesn't mean that I'm not a Christian. I follow the Christian faith. That makes sense for me, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. It doesn't mean that someone that follows Islam or something else is wrong. I think so many times we get stuck in this is the way I think it has to be, so that's it. And that's not true. And it doesn't make anyone bad. Someone said this once, I don't remember who, so I can't quote it right, but they're like, you're the villain for someone else and the hero for you. In your life, in any battle, war, life, whatever, any conflict, everyone sees themselves as the hero and whoever they're not with as a villain. In reality, we need to see them as humans and that they just perceive the world differently. And where can we connect? I know we kind of went way off of what we were talking about, but I like this stuff, so you will get me into that pretty quickly, so you can pull me back in anytime you want.
That's the problem, Joe. I like that stuff too, so... Oh, I like it too. So, yeah, I don't know. And it's funny because, like the questions I have, they just come like real time, right? I don't have any pre-scripted questions in my head. So I kind of forgot what we were talking about 5 minutes ago because I got so focused on where we were
podcasting. I love that. That's podcasting. Maybe because of this week, or maybe because it's just what needs to be for this show. It is. You know, we're talking about making a life that we love living, waking up to. You know, there's no rules with that. Here's another thing. I'll rip the Band-Aid off. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to be successful. You can be a multimillionaire as a salesperson. You can build a life you love living if you made 80,000. It doesn't matter. There's no rules. The rules are what rules you want. What life do you want? What makes you happy? And I think that at the end of the day is more important than grinding from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or whatever. I did the grind lifestyle. I won the awards. It's not that exciting. Like, it's cool. You get to go on a trip, you do the thing, but once you do it once or two times, it's like, okay, what now?
Yeah.
And then it's just finding out and looking back and go, what do I want to really do? Who do I really want to help? And yes, we can all make a bunch of money. And I think that's why I like sales, because in sales, if you're good at it, doesn't matter if you're an old man, doesn't matter if you're a woman, doesn't matter your background, culture, any of that. None of it matters. If you're really good at sales, you can build a life you love and make a crap ton of money, because when it comes to money, people like to make money. And if you're selling something, people are like, oh, cool. They forget all their little preconceived ideas, all their little stupidities. Like, I think of it this way. I grew up stupid poor, and I love my parents, and as we went and grew, we got better. But I remember there was times where my mom would put a can or a cup of tomato soup with water. We couldn't even afford the milk, with water. And me and my two sisters would drink it, and my parents wouldn't eat because it was just that negative of a time. But then they went from being factory workers doing that all the way to managing storage facilities and managing apartment complexes and trying different things. They kind of had a little bit of an entrepreneurial bug. They didn't get as far as maybe they wanted, but I seen them go from, like I said, food stamps, dirt poor. I was a kid that got made fun of because I got all my clothes from the yard sale, to now, that's probably where I got my drive from now. Like, I'm bougie. Like, not bougie in a weird way, but like, when I go to Hawaii, I want to stay at the Grand Hyatt because it's fun to stay there. When I win trips and I go to really cool places and some company pays me to go to Palm Beach for 4 days because I sold them enough stuff and I get to live it up, I like that. I like travel. I like all the nice things. But I think I'm also grateful because I remember, like, that picture, like when I said it popped in my head, I remember sitting in our little house that was built in the 1840s. It's still standing. I don't know how it's still standing, but in the 1840s, in a rundown kitchen at the time, drinking that cup of tomatoes. And I'm like, the other thing I thought of, and this is just encouragement to people, is my kids have never known that level. There was a couple times when it got dark or deep, and I worked a couple of jobs. They just didn't know it had gotten bad, because we all go through the cycles of life. My kids had never had to know that aspect, and I call that a win, because I think every family wants to get better and stronger. So I want to encourage people that are listening. Maybe you're not in your ideal role yet. Maybe you haven't reached what it is you feel you are capable of. Don't stop, but be grateful and honor that you've gotten to the point where you are, because if you look back, you're probably better than what you started from, and you just got to keep progressing and becoming who it is you are, learning, growing, but give yourself grace, because I get so annoyed when people say you have to be at to be super successful, because guess what? I know a lot of them. I know a lot of millionaires. It's not like a name dropping thing, but don't take it wrong. And a lot of miserable millionaires. I know a lot of very super happy, compassionate, great, awesome, giving millionaires too. So I want to put that out there too, because I don't think all rich people are bad, because I want to be more wealthy and make money and do that. And I'm sure you do too. We're like, not everyone is bad, so don't take that wrong. Yes. But I think so many times people think, well, if I didn't do X, I didn't succeed. No. Who put that thought or idea in you that you have to do X, Y, Z to be successful? I took a break from doing sales, like pushing my sales career. My son was 11 or 12 to be the dugout dad. I suck at baseball. I didn't play baseball. I couldn't play baseball when I was younger because it messed with church time. That's another thing. We won't go down that path. That's a little... But anyways, I ended up being the dugout dad, and I just went to work in a little bit earlier. And again, I know how to shrink time with sales, so I just pushed harder when I was working instead of getting distracted. But I took that time, and that's probably one of the most meaningful times I ever had with my son. And now he's 19, and we go hiking together. He still wants to interact with me. And I'm like, what 19-year-old son wants to normally interact with their 47-year-old dad?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, a little bit, but like, hey, I'm going to go hiking. You want to come? Tell me about stuff in his life. That's great. My oldest daughter does that too. I think you need to look at the victories you have, the people you impact, and where you came from, where you're at. Now, that again, we talked about gratitude earlier and where we're at. Like, am I proud of who I was from 10, 20 years ago? I am super proud. But now I have all this knowledge, all this wisdom, all these things I can do to help people wake up to a life they love living. But here's the funny thing, guys. It does not mean that you have to be a millionaire to wake up to a life you love living. It means you have to wake up to a life you love living. Have you actually listened to yourself, to your heart? What is it that you really want? What makes you happy? You know why we moved to Arizona? I wanted mountains, but it's part of our grand idea, because like I want cabins in Montana. My wife wants condos in Hawaii. I know, vastly different, but we can do both. And I think it just becomes, Arizona got me closer to my network and stuff, but it becomes just getting one step closer. And there's no end game. Once you hit that step, well, then what's next? You're going to think about, okay, do I want to speak on stages? Do I want to help more people? Do I want to just do nothing for the next 2 months? And it's okay. Because I'm going to reverse that too. You don't always have to be doing stuff, Mr. Entrepreneur, Mrs. Entrepreneur, that's always feeling like you have to get stuff done, do things all the time. It's okay. We were talking before the show. Last night, my daughter had a Nutcracker performance, class, training, whatever they call that. Sorry. Yeah. My mind went. And I scrolled on TikTok and listened to 80s, 90s bands and just funny TikTok for 2 hours because I had to sit there until she was done. It's far enough away that I didn't want to drive there, go home and drive back because I would just be driving, no sense. So I just took 2 hours or maybe an hour and a half and just zoned out. And it's okay to do that at times too.
Exactly. As we mentioned earlier, that's exactly what I would do after we're done recording.
Nope, time to go. Sorry, have good. No, I'm teasing.
I gotta go scroll. Oh my God. You said so much that I could completely resonate with, right? So point number one, about, making more money type of thing. Honestly, Joe, part of the reason why I'm working so hard and I want to build out my business to as much as possible, because I want a farm. I want a farm with chickens and goats and collect lots of animals, because that's where I see myself in the next whatever amount of time it takes to do that. But to do that, you gotta have money to do that, I'm working so hard so that I can have the life that I want, right? It takes an investment period, right?
But yeah, and life is seasons. There's times when you're going to grind it out and push it out. 20 years of sales, believe me, there's been times because I was doing 100% commission. I was the dude doing 9 to 9. I was the guy doing all this stuff. And then I got systems and processes in place to where I could pull these levers and okay, cool. I can control my inputs. I can't control what they do at the end of the day. So what I ended up doing was I started learning, okay, I need to make these many calls a day. If I hit that calls, cool. Floors and ceiling. I'm going to at least make 100 calls a day. That'd be my floor. My ceiling would be I'm making 200 calls a day. That's an epic day. I didn't beat myself up. I kept myself to the standard of 100. But if I got over 100, it was a win. if I got to 100, I still honored that I was willing to do it even on the bad day, because you have good days and bad days.
Yeah.
And building a life you love means that you sacrifice at times for it. It's just remembering, if you have kids or life and all, that you don't sacrifice all the time for it, saying you're doing it for them, because you're not, you're doing it for you. And that's kind of more of a different ego-driven thing there. But no, I love that. My wife wants a farm sometimes. But then so she remembers that all the work that comes with the farm, and she's like, can we have a farm with people that would do the work for it, but I get the cute little chickens and the pugs running around and doing all that? And I'm like, no. If we're having a farm, we're going to do the stuff. Not that we can't employ people, don't take that wrong, but I'm like, do you really want someone showing up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go do all the stuff that needs to be done? It's just, sometimes I reverse engineer. I'm like, is this really what you want? Or do you just like the idea of having your own food, your own stuff? Like we have fruit trees and stuff, and I think people don't realize, I commend you. Farming is a lot of work. I do not want to be a farmer. I know I grew up in the country. I've seen those. I'm going to say this. Those people are very strong, very brave. They work very hard. They're probably some of the best people out there. So I'll buy produce from you when you have your farm. Totally great with that. I love organic, but that is not my dream. That gives me nightmares. I don't want to pick up cow poop. I don't want to do hay baling. I don't want to do any of it anymore. Let me sit on the beach, in the mountains, in the cabins. I'll talk to people. I'll even do a podcast on farming. I'll bring farmers in. I just don't want to do the farm. But I love it for you. That's the cool thing. Yeah. I want you to have this farm, and you're going to have to come on my show and tell us about your farm when you get it too.
Yeah. That is so funny, because literally, like, the current client I'm serving, he's in the process of building like his country house, like, in the middle of Pennsylvania, all this stuff. And so, like, I'm like, you have to tell me all the steps. So I'm like literally preparing myself. And it's funny because I always make jokes with my husband, like, I don't do any physical labor, but yet I want this farm. He's the physical labor one.
Everyone take a moment and let's pray for her.
But here's the thing, like, I'll take care of the animals, like, I'll definitely take care of the animals with all the feed and everything, but he's going to pick up the poop. I'm not picking up the poop. Yeah. Because he's the one that wants, like, the garden and stuff too. So he's going to learn all the fertilization and stuff. I'll just provide him with the sources for fertilization.
No, that's awesome. I love it.
I went blank. I was just so...
Oh, I'll go. You're picturing your farm. You're picturing your dream. You're like, I've done that before. Like, you'll sit there and you'll step into, where do I want to be? What do I really want to do? And all of a sudden, like, then you get there, and then it'll be like, okay, cool, I have a farm. Now what do I want to do? I think that's the thing. So I have not learned this yet. I learned how to get there. I learned how to kind of achieve it. But then once I get there, my mind's like, okay, what do I want to do next? So I need to learn to be present in the moment better. I can do it some, but I need to learn to be present in the moment better. And I think that's an entrepreneurial, sales driven people in general thing. It's like, I got it. What's next? I got it. What's next? And learning to be grateful in the moment. I think for me, it's hard.
Same.
I think, well, let me ask you this, because now here comes my acquisitive side. So most entrepreneurs I know have 4 things they run into. 1, they have a super EQ or super IQ. I'm a pretty smart dude, but I know I have a super EQ. Like, I'm really good at reading people. That's what I do. Traumatic event in their life. I've had a few. I'm going to assume you probably have had a few. Not do anything else there. Possibly ADHD or dyslexia that kind of runs in there sometimes. And then a ribbon chip on their shoulder to prove people wrong and achieve things that people say you can't do. If you tell me I can't do something, it's a bad day. Well, it's actually a good day for me, but you probably should never tell me that, because now it's like game on. Even if I wasn't wanting to do it, I have this little, oh, I can't do this? Okay. Why is that? And then I just go into go mode. So those are the things that I see a lot of times. And it's not like a box, because there's variations of it, but that's what I've run into.
Yeah, definitely all 4 apply. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. Even with starting up my podcast, I would share ideas about the concept of it. connecting the dots. I'm not a niche. We're going to talk about everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have everybody on. I'm going to have Rain, because I want real stories. That's the niche, real stories. But before all that, connecting the dots, no niche. I'm not following the traditional YouTube podcast thing. And I got so much pushback on that. Like, no, you need to niche. You need to be really specific on one topic for your podcast. I'm like, no. First of all, I didn't ask you for your opinion. I just shared with you what I was doing.
Yep.
Second of all, no, this is what it is. It is what it is. I'm running with this. And literally a year later, I've met the most incredible people. I've had amazing conversations. The growth has been really unpredictable. I didn't think, my show would grow so fast. Number 4 has been extremely healing for myself, talking to so many different people, so many different stories, so many different topics. It's catapulting, things for me from a opportunity standpoint. Like now I'm starting to get into speaking engagements, which was something I always wanted to do, like on my list of goals. But it's funny because it's like when people tell me, oh, you can't do something, or, oh, you need to just stay in this spot, I'm like, bet. And I'll do the complete opposite.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, it's funny you said that, because when I started my podcast, I kind of fell into it. I have this weird habit of falling into things. I went to an event, and I wanted to help Dad, so I got really good with sales. So at the beginning, my podcast was called the 150K Podcast for about 140, probably about 160 episodes, and I'm at 208 right now. And I wanted to just help people break the 6-figure barrier, take their kids to Disney, their wife to Hawaii, wake up to a life they love living. I think it was help build epic life. I can't remember the exact title. And then my friend Liz Benny comes on. She goes, your show's so much more than sales and business. Why are you hiding behind that name? You need to come out and be you. And I'm like, crap. I didn't say crap because on my show I cuss, but I'm being respectful. I was like, crap, you're right. So I made the shift to it. Because my show was already way past doing just sales and business. I had people talking about health. I had people talking about their lives. I had people talking about how they overcame things. I had people talking about just weird, random stuff because I was into it. And I think there's no rules. And if you look at the biggest podcasts, whether you do Call Her Daddy or Joe Rogan, or trying to think of all the top ones, they're all over the place. They're not niche down. People say niche down because they're thinking of making money, not thinking of making impact. That's what the thing is. Do you want to make money with your podcast? Yeah, maybe you need to niche down to get them this little training, to do this little thing, to help this little segment, to get your buyers. Or do you want to make worldwide impact, which is what I think you want to do, Jessica, which is what I want to do, where there's no rules. I'm bringing in a bunch of different people. I'm having different people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all groups, and we just chat and talk. Now, a lot of it is kind of with the theme of, hey, let's wake up to a life we love living. How can we make the world a better place? What is it that you're doing that maybe I'm into? But like my buddy Richard Kaufman, who has a really cool podcast, we just did a riff of the 90s and 80s and just, I think about a year ago, because I was like, I don't care. I don't want to just do another boring podcast. And he had already been on my show. Then I have like my friend Brian Bogart come on, and he talks about deep work and helping people and dealing with their trash from the past and all these different stuff. And I've had like Steve Sims, who done a bunch of crazy stuff on it. And I think it's just, people listen to podcasts because first they connect with each other. Second, they want to hear good stories because, like Dr. Who says, we're all stories in the end, make it a good one. And they want to be drawn into good conversation. You're only listening to this podcast because you like what Jessica and I have been talking about, and you wish you were here sitting with us, drinking coffee, having a cool chat. And I think that's what podcasts do, instead of the rigid, here's 5 questions we had. Because when I started out, I did that. I did it for my first 10 episodes, and my buddy Tracy Brickman goes, dude, you're a salesman, just ask questions. I just, because I thought I had to do it, because I saw the no shade on, who's that dude? I can't think of his name, I guess, doesn't matter. But he would always ask the same 5 questions, and he built his podcast. And I'm like, okay, is this what I'm supposed to do? And they're like, screw it. And then I switched, and all of a sudden it just opened up and came so much better, because it was like, oh, wait, I'm being authentic again. Why wasn't I doing this before?
Yeah. And it's so funny that you're touching on being authentic. Even for myself, I'm going on this whole journey of just allowing myself to become unhinged. And it's even that's getting a little bit nuts, right? So when I was 13, I grew up in Baltimore. Okay. I grew up in Baltimore, right? I always wanted to be a rapper. I have a rap name. I have two actually. But the first one is J Money. And the second one is J Candy. And because I'm older now and I have money, that's the stripper rapper name is J Candy. J Money is the gangster rapper. See, that I have a whole backstory and everything. The backstory's not even true. I've never been a gangster or a stripper in my life. Respect to people who are. I have friends that were, but
yep.
So it's J Money. And so because I'm older now and I have a little extra spending money, my husband bought like a synthesizer. I bought like my J Money persona outfit. I started a secret Instagram.
Oh,
and
nice.
we're like preparing to drop a mixtape. And I've been slowly sharing that story with people. And there's demand for the mixtape. I'm like, people really want to hear it. I have to do it.
Yep.
But that's all just me being authentic, right? Like, maybe like, let's see how authentic I can be and let's just have fun with it. Like, it's like, I don't know, just being yourself makes life so much more enjoyable.
Does, and it's so rare, and that's why people are drawn to it. Because so many people are caught in their walls of what their parents, their family, their church, their community, insert X tells them they have to be instead of being who they really want. And it's taken me years. Believe me, I used to be a big people pleaser. I used to be the one like, oh, okay, cool, I'm going to do this for you. I have to do this because God says so, da-da-da-da. And then I one day hit a wall, I'm like, this makes no more sense to me. I need to live a life I love. I need to do cool things I want to do. Now, I think it's just finding out what you like. You just said that I was J Candy. I was J Money. I was wanting to do this thing. And you know what? You giggled. It was almost like seeing the little girl come on going, I'm going to go. And I love that because I think so many times we forget to play and have fun and be who we are. And you're like, oh, crap, there's a demand. Yeah, there's a demand because it's authentic life. And people want authentic life. We're tired of the fake. We're tired of the bull crap. We're tired of the, you got to do this box, or I can't talk to you because you're not in my group. Screw that. I kick group doors down. I was definitely that kid. I was friends with everyone in high school. I wasn't super close, but I could go into any group on purpose. The only thing I had to catch myself is because of my personality, I can very much mimic people, not even on purpose. It's a sales thing. Like I will literally, you put me into any group, any culture, I will morph, not even realizing it. I'll hear how they're talking, and I just will start talking that way. I don't do it on purpose. So I'm like, okay, wait, it might be an authentic or whatever. But in reality, it's one of those, I was like, wait a minute, I just need to be me. It's okay. But like, I used to do that so much. And I'm like, I'm tired. That's a lot of work. I'm just going to be me. And if they like me, great. And if they don't, I don't care anymore. Yeah. Well, I love that. So when are you dropping the mix?
I keep telling my husband, I'm like, you got to make my tracks. You got to make my samples. We have all the recording stuff. That's no problem. It's called The Worst Rap Album You've Ever Heard, with some exceptions.
Awesome. I love it.
Hopefully we could drop it by the New Year. So we'll see.
You should. That could be your New Year's theme song. That could be maybe the new theme song for the podcast. If you want it, just throwing it out there. You could start doing some of your mixes beforehand when they come on. So when it pops out, whatever your songs and mixes are, it just comes out. You play that as the intro. Then you come into the show. Good to go.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. I love it. Joe, I might do that.
It's your show. There's no rules. That's true. What makes it great. Think of all the late night shows that used to be exciting. I didn't really watch them, but like people used to love like Johnny Carson, or I don't follow them enough. I know there's new ones, but whatever. But like they would do the different like acts or different like things, and people just like the variety of it. I think that's what podcast has become. It's the variety of the human experience.
Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna bring more of it. I'm gonna bring more of it into the show. Thanks, Joe.
I love it.
What? Thanks, Joe. And so if you had your top 3 pieces of advice for figuring out how to take the steps to live a more authentic life, what would they be?
First, sit with it. What do you really want to do out of life? Rephrase that. Who do you want to be? Doing is an action, being is a state of mind, a present being. And find out who you really are, because you can't be authentic until you know who you are. Not what your parents told you, not what your pastor told you, not what your friends tell you, not what society tells you, not what anyone around you tells you. What is it that makes your heart happy? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? I would literally tell you to go and take an hour a week for the next 4 weeks, because it's going to take longer than just one sit down. Get a pen and paper or get a recorder. It's like I'm just like sick sometimes, so I will voice text because it's easier for me. Whatever works for you, to write it down and start seeing what it is you want to do. Then just take steps toward it, because authenticity is good when you trust that you're worthy enough. So first and foremost, let me tell you this. You're worthy. You're amazing. You're wonderful. You were created the being you are, or you were born to be you are. However you look at it, I don't care. You still have unique value that you bring to the world. I think Gary Vee talks about it. There's like a 4 trillion chance that you are here, so let's not waste it. You're here for a reason and a purpose. Find people that you trust, that have no ulterior motive, that will speak life into you and say, hey, you know what, Jessica, I see this about you. You know, when you're in the room, you make me feel this way. Because if you don't know how you are, because you have all the noise and you're worried and you're trying to figure it out, get some advice from people that have your best interest in heart, but are not putting their, but caveat it this way. They have your best interest in heart, but remember, they have their walls, their rose-colored glasses, their ideas, their thoughts in their head. So it may come out a little bit different. Take what you like, get rid of the other, and then just practice being comfortable with you and loving you and not worrying about what other people think, because secret, most times they're not thinking about you. If they yelled at you, if they treated you bad, if they looked at you weird, if they said something that you didn't like, 90% of the time in them. Now, I'm not justifying it. There are some a-holes out there, so don't hear what I'm not saying. But most of the time, people aren't thinking about you. They're thinking about how you affect them, how you make them feel, how the world around them is affecting them. Authenticity is just trying to be yourself every day, loving well, and doing what you want to do to the best of your ability, and give yourself grace. You're going to mess up. You're not going to be perfect. And some people might not like it, but guess what? They're not your people. The people that are in your world that are drawn to you are your people. The people that are in your world that you thought and aren't drawn to you are not. Like, I've had people leave me this week, even though I am in the middle, because we're recording right after the election. I'm in the middle, and I just made a couple statements of, hey, this is interesting to me, whatever. And I had people from both sides drop. And I don't care, because guess what? They're not my people, not my issue. I'm still just going to love people, help people, and do what I can. That's it. Because at the end of the day, I think I'm too old. I said I'm too old. Wow, I sound like an old man, and I'm only 47. I'm not old, but I am too old to listen to people's bull crap about what they think I should or shouldn't do, believe or shouldn't believe, like or not like, when really they don't really matter in my life. Now, I'm not talking about my wife or my kids or my family or people super close, but online or in my world or who I work with, they come and go.
Yeah.
So love yourself, love the people around you, find counsel of people that you know have your best interest in mind, and then just write it out and start to figure out what it is you want to do. And it's going to change. 10 years ago, me wanted to be who I am today. Now who I am today, it's way bigger. I want to speak on stages. I want to go one-to-many, not one-on-one. I want to travel the world, maybe write a book, do more stuff. But again, we're going right back to, I'm grateful for where I was, because 10 years ago, holy crap, in 10 years, I got to where I wanted to be. So that means the stuff that I want to do now, in 10 years, maybe Jessica and I will have another one. She'll have her farm by then. And maybe we'll record from the farm, because I like farms. And like, I like it. I just don't want to be there all the time. But we could do like one out in the farm and do like a cool thing and then ride horses or whatever. See, now I'm giving you horses. You're like, shut up, Joe. She didn't say we were doing horses. I don't know what your thing is. I was just thinking of, I'd rather have a ranch. That's what it is. I would rather have a ranch. I don't want one. That's not like, I'm not saying I want to do, but if I had to pick, I'd rather have a ranch. I don't want to do crops. I want to have horses and cattle and all that type of stuff, because that's a little bit easier than riding on a tractor all day. But I know, there again, I got sidetracked. But again, it's being authentic in where you are, but being grateful for where you started. I think back at 19-year-old me who was scared, afraid, not knowing anything, to where I am now, where I've traveled the world, I've spoke on stages, I've impacted lives, I've won awards that people think are great, which I'm like, well, it's just I just did the work. And I think it just comes down to, what is it that you really want to do? Sit with yourself, find people that will support you, and learn the word no. Because every no you say opens up a yes for something else. When you say no to this, it opens up a yes for that. If you're always saying yes to someone else, you're a lot of times saying no to you, and you're not getting to your dreams and goals because you're being bound by what they say.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. It's interesting because this past year, I think I gave myself a unofficial challenge of having a year of yes. And it's been fantastic up until now. It's like, I need to say no. It's time to say no now. Like my year of yes opened up my eyes to a lot of things, and it's been fantastic. I think it was my season for a year of yes. And now it's time to a season of no. And then a season of, let's see which one will fit with where I'm trying to go. So that's excellent advice.
I love that, because you have to say yes to figure out what you want to do. But then once you've done it and you're like, I don't like this. So here's the thing. Then putting on your podcast, people hear it. I've been coaching one-on-one. I have a couple of clients. I will keep those clients. I'm not taking any new more clients. I don't want to coach one-on-one. I don't like it as much. Now, the clients I have, I love. Don't hear not saying they're great. Working with them is cool, but I like to talk to many people. I like doing podcasts more. I like speaking on stages more. I like impacting people, doing a webinar or something. And for me, it's learning what it is that you want. And there's no rules. Build your business how you want. Do your thing how you want. You don't have to niche your podcast. You can niche your podcast if you want. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. And I think I have this. My word for the new year is kick the door down. I don't want to deal with anyone else's rules of what they think I should or should do. I don't care anymore. I know that's a little bit harsh and will hurt some people's feelings, but I don't. Like, I've cared for so long, and then all of a sudden it smacked me in the face.
It yields you nothing when you care too much. It yields you nothing when you care what other people say. Because then at the end of the day, you're still by yourself because they got whatever they wanted out of you. And then it's like, dang, okay. Now what?
Yeah. Love yourself first. Let's just kick the old cliche down. Love yourself first. It's okay. It's not selfish to be selfish. It's actually good. Because if you don't do things that you want, need, and desire, your life will be miserable. And I don't care what book tells you, you shouldn't.
Yeah. That's excellent. Thank you so much, Joe. I feel like we could talk for like...
Oh, yeah, I could talk to you for hours. I'm like, oh, crap, I keep interrupting her and keep talking more. She's probably trying to end. It's like, shut up, Joe!
No, it's just like, when you say you're curious, like, there's a whole other... I was reflecting, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff that we didn't even touch on, right? I'm not going to, because we'll be here for hours. So we definitely need to have like a part 2 recording, just because I feel like you're such a wealth of knowledge, and you are very, very wise. And I feel like what you have to say is important. And I feel like it's great that you're speaking on stages and keep doing that and opening up more time for you to reach one to many, because I feel like viewpoints that you have should be heard.
Thank you. I receive that. I appreciate you.
Of course. And Joe, where can people find you?
Easiest place is the Joseph Graham Show. That's my podcast. On pretty much all socials, it's Joe Graham, real, REAL, with the exception of LinkedIn, it's Joseph Graham. And then I have the 150K, or not 150K. Yeah, we're back to it. I have the Joseph Graham Show group on Facebook. But yeah, and it's me. So if you shoot me information, you can check it out. And I'd love to chat and help you any way I can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joe. I had so much fun today. I can't wait for a part 2 episode.
Me too. Thank you for having me on, Jessica. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm supposed to say like and subscribe. I never say that. All right.